hello again, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for another exciting episode of the Stafford Media Channel. Got some cool things happening today in Photoshop, so let's dive right in. So recently I gave you guys a framing assignment. Remember, framing is kind of designed to frame your viewer's eye with something. It's a foreground background relationship, right? It's just creating almost like a picture frame around a picture. It's designed to just frame something and tell your mind's eye, not that this is unimportant, but this is important. Look here. So it really provides a really nice foreground background relationship. So always look for those types of things. Not that every picture has to have that by any means, but occasionally if you find something in a foreground that's interesting, go, oh, maybe I can use this. It looks good in portraiture, it looks good in landscape, so it's kind of cool. So let's dive right in. All right, here's a picture I shot out in my yard. It was a beautiful day right after it rained, and I kind of said, you know what, that's kind of neat. I think I'll do some of that. And so I saw this oak tree that was kind of leaning over, and then I had some cool moss growing out of this big old rock here. So I said, I want to do that. But then I was thinking, I bet I can make it look even better. So that's our mission today. Let's make this look even better. Okay, here we go. As usual, I have created for you a how-to. All right, so framing assignment instructions. So first of all, it says to open the image. And by the way, before we even do that, do I need to make another video for you guys on terms of how to get your images from your phone into your computer? If I do, I will, or I can just show you in class. Either way, again, whenever kids watch this in subsequent years and we're just doing this when the pandemic's over and all that good stuff, no worries. But if I need to show you that again, I can either show you in class or I can make a short video because obviously this didn't just appear on my computer. I shot it with my phone, and then I took it, I opened my OneDrive, and I took the image and I dropped it into OneDrive. And then I came over here on my computer, and I opened OneDrive here, and then I took it and I copied it into a folder already. So the folder where it resides right now is over here, and I put it inside of my picture folder, and I made a folder called Framing. So I put a few different ones in there. It's kind of the same shot, just slightly different perspective. I found the one that I liked the most, and I picked that one. So that is where it is. Okay, but again, I think we can make this better. So that's what I've done so far. And again, if I need to show you that in class, I will. Just raise your hand and say, Mr. Stafford, I don't know how to get my pictures off my phone onto my computer, and we can go over that, okay? All right, so I will go to File, Save As, first thing. And I can put my name on this. Underscore, and I'll call it Framing. And I said, don't save it as a JPEG until the very, very, very end. Save it as a Photoshop document. So you save all these wonderful layers that you're going to be creating. It's going in my picture folder, and if you cruise right up here, it's going in my framing folder. I like having folders inside of folders. That way I can keep track of things. All right. So it says to duplicate the background layer by dragging it to the duplicate layer icon. So to do that, I can just go right here, drag this layer right down to there. Boop. That way, if you make a mistake, hey, you got a backup copy right down there. I'll just turn that one off even, so you don't even have to see it. So you'll know that everything's happening is right there, but it really doesn't change anything. I can leave it on either way. Okay. Number 2 says to adjust your contrast and exposure by going to your layer palette. Click on the adjustments ball, you know, that little half black, half white ball. It's on there. Select curves and then adjust your curve until you like the result. S-shaped curves work the best. So here we go. Let's go to here, and remember it's that little icon right there. It's called, what's it say? Create new adjustment layer. So boom, that's what it is. And I said, let's start with a curve. And so I get this right here. And I said kind of an S-shaped curve will give you some really nice looking contrast. Now this is kind of a high contrast image to begin with, just because of the nature of the light that day. It was right after it rained, and so on those days it's super clear. You have to be careful, especially if you're shooting pictures of portraits, which we'll do later on in the semester. Pictures of portraits, portraits of people, and so really high contrast can be really intense on people's faces, so you have to be really careful. But on nature stuff, it's a little more forgiving. In fact, oftentimes it looks really cool if it is kind of high contrast like this. So yeah, I just did a S-shaped curve. If you forget this, you can also go to presets, and hey, look, you have strong contrast. That's a little too intense. You have medium contrast. Boom. It also will let you, you see there's things in there that say darker. If you wanted to make it darker, you can do that. I'm going to stick with like a medium contrast. And then remember, you can also, if you said, hey, I want a little bit more, you can do that. Pull it down just a little bit, but don't kill it. Don't overdo it. All right. Okay, so next. You may want to bring out, this is a new one here. I haven't done this before in class. The previous one you have done, but this one I have not yet done. It says you may want to bring out some of your dominant colors. We'll do this by adjusting the hue and saturation. Click on the adjustment ball again. Adjust the slider to check out the saturation levels and the hue levels. Okay, so hue and saturation. All right, so you might go, hey, where'd all my layers go and stuff? Remember, they're back in your layer palette. Properties just shows, here's the property of the thing that I just changed, okay? Go back to your layers palette. Okay, so now I want to go down to that little black and white ball there. Or you can, check it out, you also have an adjustments tab. And if yours isn't showing, you can, if you want to make it show, go to Windows and Adjustments, and that tab will show up, okay? But mine, I like it right here because I use it a lot. Okay, so I said to do hue and saturation. So roll your mouse over things. I happened to click on that first thing and there it was. But if you can't find it, just notice how if I roll my mouse here, it'll change right there. So see how each one of those, the wording right here changes to tell you what it is. So click on hue and saturation. So what is hue and saturation? Saturation is your color intensity. See how I can really, like if I, clearly I can make it horrible looking, looks like, I don't know, sort of end of the world kind of thing. And because when you turn it all the way up, that's maximum saturation. And it doesn't look good. But the opposite of that is if you turn it all the way down, it takes all the saturation out and turns it into a black and white image. Sometimes in some other images, maybe we'll play with it a little bit at the end here, you can actually turn the saturation down a little bit and have kind of like a half black and white, half color image, and that can look kind of cool sometimes. But sometimes I want to bring out some colors. I don't need too much in this image because, again, it's really contrasty and very intense on its own just because of the lighting. But you can also use a fun one to play with because you can really totally change things around. Now, I probably should have showed you this whenever we did surrealism, where we really wanted to change around the colors. Maybe we'll do surrealism again and we'll make you do a color thing. But your hue is essentially your color, essentially your colors, okay? And so you can change all of the color representations, okay? Now, normally, whenever it's at 0, you can see that's the way the image came in, and my image is full of greens and blues. But if you wanted to shift things around a little bit, you can actually do that. All right, you can actually do that. And it will also let you bring out different colors within your overall color range. So if you said, okay, I don't want to bring out any red, see, I can actually click on in my red, whenever you're dealing with your RGB values, I can essentially change it and make all kinds of weird and wonderful looking things. And notice how it's sliding around all of my images right here. So it also, you can click into each area. I'm going to click back in the master, click in here, and if I said I want to make this a little more intense here, I can actually just affect those areas. So it's primarily picking up just my blues and everything. So play around with that. You might like some of it you might not like. I'm actually going to put it back where it was. But I just wanted to show you that that was there. That's something that is kind of fun to play with a little bit. I'm going to go back to my master and put it back where it was because it's really it's turning my sky purple and I don't like that. But I'll probably go in and just turn my saturation up just a little bit, and I might just dial down my hue just a little bit. Why? Because I want to bring out a little bit of the, not only is moss green, but it has some little bits of reddish coming in because of the sun here. So I might want to just shifted that a little bit so it kind of warms up my image just a hair. So I haven't changed it a lot, but I just did that a little bit. All right, so it's kind of fun to play with your hue and saturation. Go back to my layer palette. You can see before and after. So see how I brought out I turned down that green just a little bit and brought out just a little bit of red. So I kind of like that. Okay, next. All right, so we're going to make a new layer, and I think I left off part of this here. I want to bring up the layer, and we are going to slightly blur out some background stuff because I really want to focus the viewer's eye here. You see it's partially out of focus there, but I want to accentuate that even more, and I'll fix that before I put it in there. So I'm going to make a new layer, and then I'm going to do a stamp visible, which is a Control-Shift-Alt and E, and it took a picture of all these things and it put it right into there. And I'm going to type blur here. Okay. And then if you remember on our last assignment, we did a different blur. And this one I'm going to do a Gaussian blur. So I go to Filter. We can either go to Blur Gallery or Blur. Remember last time we played with our tilt shift, and that was fun. This time we're just going to do a straight Gaussian blur. All right, that's a little high there, so I'm going to turn it down, maybe to like about 5 or so. A little goes a long way. So why did I throw that out of focus there? Just because I just want to change things around a little bit. You're going to see, though, that I'm going to fix it. So what else does it say then? And then it says to set blending mode to soft light and then opacity at 30. So we're basically just kind of softening parts of that. And then my opacity, see, it made it really, really intense. My opacity at 30. That's 29 right there. So if I zoom into it, it's Control+++. You can see it gets all zoomed in right there. And you see it just kind of, it changed how this starburst is coming through right there. So I kind of liked that. But I don't want to blur these areas, so I can actually then go in and mask out those areas right there. So I'm going to click here, make a big brush, and just do a sweep right through here. I'm going to turn my opacity up. It's about 80%. And so on a white mask, if I paint black, remember it knocks out those areas right there. So I'm just kind of taking out some of that effect, so that way it's nice and sharp there, but slightly blurs that background, okay? See how it just kind of blurred that background. Double click on the hand and it'll show you the whole thing. Okay, let's continue. So I'm going to duplicate the background layer again. This is where I'm going to sharpen up a little bit. Duplicate the background layer again, rename it High Pass, and then sharpen that layer by going to Image, Adjustments, Desaturate, then Filter, Other, and High Pass. Set to 2 pixels and change the blending mode to Overlay. This sharpens your image. You can intensify this by duplicating both of the layers. Okay, so we're going to do that again. So Control, Shift, Alt, and E. Took a picture of that again. All right, and so I'll call this High Pass, as it said. And then I'm going to, in the layer, go to Image Adjustments, Desaturate, and then I go to Filter, Other, and High Pass. And I like it about 10, so it looks all kind of whacked out. But then you go to Overlay. Now it makes it all kind of sharp, but it usually is too high, so I turn it down. What did I recommend in the instructions? What did I say? This sharpens your image. You can intensify this by duplicating if you wanted to. I didn't specify in here. That actually said 2 pixels, but I like it a little higher at 10. But then I'm going to turn it down to about, probably about 60%. So if you zoom in on it again, you can see here's what it does is it really kind of sharpens. Look right in here on the images. It really sharpens up those images nicely. Okay, there's that. I can see some other things I want to fix here. We're rolling along. So now, if you want to play with some colors, this again is something I haven't showed you guys, but this is kind of a cool thing. Select the photo filter to either a cool one or a warmer one, depending on your image. Go to the adjustments ball again and select photo filter. I'm going to select a warm tone. You pick your own. So like in this image, I might want to, you notice how I said I brought out some of these reds and stuff, and that's kind of a cool thing. But you could also, maybe you say, hey, I see some kind of cool tones coming in on the sky. I could actually do some of that. So what would happen there? So let's go ahead and do I'm going to do a stamp visible again, Control Shift Alt and E. And then you can go to, I said there's a photo filter here, so it's here, but also remember it's in the adjustment tab, so there is a photo filter thing, and you can see it through here, so roll through right here, and find the thing that says photo filter. It looks like a little camera icon. Now this is a warm tone thing, and you'll notice how you can actually just change it. See, I could almost make this look like, wow, now we're down out in the desert or something. Here we are just putting on some little bit of warm, that almost feels like summer sun, but this is a winter image, so I don't want to put too much on there, but there it is. There's other filters too. While you're here, might as well play a little bit. There are cooling filters. So back in the photo days when people used to shoot film, sometimes if your light didn't match your film choice, your look could be kind of weird and unexpected. And so people would actually use then photo filters whenever they were printing their images. They used to do that in a darkroom. And so here's some different looks. And in addition, you could also, when you were out taking pictures, you could put a photo filter like right on the camera there. And so if I said, hey, I want this to be a cooler image, I could actually literally screw a photo filter onto my camera and it could change the color of that. So those were two different ways of doing it. This, by the way, while I was talking, I changed to a cooling filter. So maybe if I wanted it to look a little cooler, like maybe, hey, we are in wintertime. Try not to make it look too fakey or anything like that, but see how you can really play with it and see, I could kind of intensify that sky. Actually, let's do that. I kind of like this as I'm doing it, but it's kind of messing up this here because I'm putting too much blue into the area that I've already done that. But the sky is kind of nice, so I'm going to put it about right there. This is a cooling filter. But watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and go back now. And so you see how it made a mask. Well, watch this. I'm going to click on this mask, and I am going to take a paintbrush. And remember what I said about masking. You take a black mask and you paint over a white layer. So I don't paint here, I actually paint in the image. So I want to leave it nice and blue up there, but watch. I'm going to actually take my brush and make it really big, and I'm going to turn this opacity down to maybe about 50%, so it's not totally abrupt, but now I'm going to paint out that effect in the foreground. And now I still have that green there, but the blue up in the top. I got a little bit there. You'll see how now I've turned my sky. It's subtle, but look at the sky. It's a more intense shade of blue, and I kind of like that. If you think it's too much, click back on this icon right here and turn it down a little bit, because I think the sky maybe got a little too intense. But I'm putting it at about 75%. Now look right in here on the sky, and you can see that sure enough, see it's getting bluer also over in here, so I like that effect. I like that. Okay, moving on. So dodge and burn where necessary. This is if you have areas that are too light or too dark. Remember what I said, you can dodge and burn. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, let me make this part go away here. Okay, so here's where I'm going to dodge and burn. I, again, am going to do a stamp visible, Control Shift Alt and E as in Edgar, and again I took a picture of all my layers here. At this point I'm going to fix something that's been kind of bugging me that probably some of you guys are watching it going, why doesn't he fix that right here? I'm going to make my brush a little smaller and I'm going to fix that. That's lens flare right there. Notice there's actually, it's flare here, but it's in the line, but there's a bit of flare right there, and I can actually fix that. There's multiple ways to do it. I think probably the Band-Aid tool, which is also called the spot healing brush, or there's multiple healing brushes, patch tool, healing brush. I think I can actually fix that by just going to boop, 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 boop. You know what? I'm actually not liking that, so I am going to, here's what kind of a good thing. I'll show you. They don't always work in all situations. So I'm going to go to my history palette and I'm going to say, you know what, I don't like those healing brushes, so I'm going to go back to where I went to stamp visible. Let's try a different one. All right, that's my history palette. It just lets you go back in time. I don't like the way that one worked, So I can use I can try a different healing brush. Watch this. Healing brush tool. If I say instead, this one's different because I can say sample from right here. So notice how I'm hitting a little target next to it, and I click here and boop. Now see, that one isn't working well either. And here's why it's not working. In this case, since I just did one, I can step backwards or undo that. Here's why it's not working that well is it's trying to color correct. And so color correcting means that it's looking at the areas surrounding it, and then it mixes it all together. And so sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work so well. So you kind of have to play around with it a little bit. And so if it doesn't work, you can always then go to the next one. Let's try this patch tool. Patch tool works pretty cool. I can say, let's do this and just sample some of this right here. And so you take it and see if I just slide that over right there. Let me zoom in on it. That wasn't too bad, huh? Zoom in on it, move over. By the way, I zoomed in with the Control+++, and then I use the space bar turns into the hand, which lets you move. Notice I just kind of drew a circle around there. Still has that lens flare issue there, which is fine. Kind of like that, and it worked. I'm gonna deselect. Control D deselects. Okay, cool. So actually, that was a happy accident because you got to see that the first two tools were failures. Sometimes they were great. Mind you, the reason why they're there is because they work, but they don't work in every circumstance. Sometimes you'll need a different tool, just like if you're building a house. You know, a hammer doesn't build a house for you. It's one of the tools you can use to build your house. So here we go. We're moving right along. I'm liking it. All right, let's continue. I said dodge and burn where necessary. If there's anything that you see that needs to be a little lighter, now you might go, oh, is that too dark right there? I think I'm okay with that. In fact, I might even want to go a little darker when I vignette it. But when I said dodge and burn if necessary, I have showed you previously the dodge and the burn tool. But the dodge tool will lighten certain areas. If I said I want to lighten this, I can go ahead and do it in the same layer, by the way. If I said I want to lighten that a little bit, I can do that. Have my exposure turned down really low. So it didn't do much, but it actually does kind of work, which I don't want to make it really light, but see how you can actually see that get lighter there. I'm going to undo that, but that's what you would do if you needed to lighten certain areas. But I don't think I want it lighter, so I'm just threw that out there in case you need to. And the opposite of that tool is the burn tool. And the burn tool will let you, I'm going to turn my exposure up a little so you can see it. It's about 35%. It's probably too high. Actually, I think it looks better a little darker, just letting it go dark like that. So I actually like that. I'll leave that there. But that's the dodge and burn tool. There's other ways of doing similar things to where you can mask. So I'm not a huge fan of the dodge and burn tool, but it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool in a pinch. Okay, almost done here. This is where I'd already done this. It says stamp visible your image, Control-Shift-Alt-E, and you desaturate your image. So you already sharpened it. I did already put a sharpening up here, so I don't actually need to repeat that step. So I just have to save and save as to turn it in. So I'm going to save this, Control-S. Boop, there it is. And now I am going to do a save as. If you forget that, by the way, save is there and save as is right there. So I'm going to do a save as, and I call it Stafford framing. I'm going to save it as a JPEG. Make sure you've already saved your Photoshop document first, otherwise you're going to be in trouble because all of your edits are going to be gone. And you're going to do a save, and the quality of 12. 10 or higher is good, but mine was set to 12, so that's fine. And boom, there it is, done. And you should have, here's my original. And see how I really brought out some color in it. Now maybe you might have thought, oh, the colors are a little too high. You know what I could do? I could say here's the before and the after. So if you thought, oh, maybe that's too much, I can go back and take that out just by clicking on that layer and taking out that photo filter layer, because that's where I turned it a little more blue. So if you said, oh, that's too blue, it doesn't look real, but it wasn't blue sky that day. I can always take some of that out. So that's why you save it as a Photoshop document, so you can always go back and fix your edit. So cool. All right, this is framing. So have fun doing some framing stuff. And it doesn't have to be nature stuff, by the way. You can easily go walking around your neighborhood and find some really cool things. All right, cool.